things that Allah did, the creation of human beings. He made the human being intelligent, made the human being dignified, made the human being awe-inspiring, made the human being beautiful. Right? All human beings are beautiful, as opposed to dirt. I mean, some forms of dirt are aesthetically, but for the most part, you know, you have ugly creations like slugs. You see the slug, and it's like, ooh, wow, yeah, right? But Allah made the human being, as He said in Surah Tateen, fi ahsani taqweem. So your design is a design of beauty. Your design is a design of beauty, right? So the Shaitan was jealous of that, by the way. Right? So those are some of my remarks that I wanted to share regarding this business of love and when we get to hatred, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All I wanted to ask you was, I missed something. You said the personal spiritual journey begins with the first step. What was that?
Now you know from years of coming to class. And by the way, Brother Adib is the note taker. So if y'all miss something in class and you really want to know, he is meticulous with notes. Okay, so he's the brother that you can count on. But it'll come back. I don't want to. Okay, so we're going to take a few minutes just to read. Mr. Hamdir, would you be kind enough to start at 25 to not have malice or hatred towards anybody? Vernon, you need to share with
Aziz.
Yeah.
Not to have malice or hatred towards anybody. Commentary. It is a grave sin to harbor hatred or malice towards individual people. Instead, we are directed to always separate the sin from the sinner. One of the reasons for this is that we believe that no created being is absolutely anything. Therefore, every sinner has a redeemable life, and every righteous person has its hidden darkness. This does not mean that we excuse wrongdoing or accept evil. In fact, the opposite is true. However, what it does mean is that we are mindful to never be surprised at the weakness of the righteous person, nor should we close the door of repentance for the sinner.
Okay. So, Ayana, so to connect to what you were asking, the focus is so that the emotion, that potent emotion of love or hatred has a spiritual manifestation, and the hatred is manifested in a hatred for the actions or the acts that Allah hates. So when you read the Quran, Allah tells us very explicitly when He phrases Allah does not love something. Well, the opposite of not loving it is hating it. So the Quran speaks to the fact that Allah hates oppression. Allah hates oppression. There's certain sins that Allah has expressed. He says He hates those sins. So we strive to, as much as possible, because we have to be honest about our humanity and our frailty and the frailty of our emotions, right? That, that's not an easy thing to do. But we are inspired by the example of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because one of the things, and this is very important for those of us that do any type of spiritual advising or counseling or pastoral, when you're talking with people, we always have to keep in mind that we're talking to human beings. And human beings are a lot of things, and I mentioned some of the good things, and some of the other things are weakness and frailty and other things about complexity, right? And so those of us that are charged with even positions of leadership, right? So this is why an imam or a sheikh or a sheikha is not just somebody who read some books. That a part of the developing of that type of spiritual leadership must include an understanding of human nature. Because you're dealing with people, and you're expected to deal with people where they are, not where you want them to be or where you think they should be. Because that prophetic station of spiritual leadership is that's what the prophet had to do. Now the thing about you and I, we have choices. And I will say to you that that's not an easy thing. And so, and this is what I say to people all the time, I want to be an imam. You think you do. Because the first practical rule is that it's never personal. And most of the time, people are dealing with you from where they are, not where you are. That's easier said than done. And so I have, in my network of people, I have people who are scholars but don't consider themselves imams or spiritual leaders. Why? A friend of mine said, I can't deal with people. People are just too mean for me. I can't. And so that speaks to the necessity in your toolkit as a spiritual leader that there has to be a degree of self-awareness that you have about yourself. And then there has to be a degree of determination, a degree of fortitude, self-fortitude, that you're not a person that's easily rocked or shook. Because folk are going to say stuff. And folk are going to do stuff. And in that position, a part of what the leader or the spiritual leader has to do is let most of that stuff go. Right? Because you can't respond impulsively. The Prophet ﷺ could never teach people not to be vengeful if he responded according to the tribal rules of Mecca at the time. And I say to people all the time, tribe and street, the same thing. So if you want to understand their street rules, right? So a person that is a spiritual leader can't respond with that code. The code at that time, the tribal code was, if you nick me on my hand, I'm going to cut your hand off. And there was no discussion. So there was no conflict resolution. There was no sitting down and talking about it. We might talk about how much blood money my tribe has to pay your tribe so that the whole tribe doesn't go to war. Right? Those were the tribal rules. Well, the Prophet, peace be upon him, could not engage his people using the tribal code. That tribal code. Because not all of the code is bad. But the bad part of the code he couldn't. I'm sorry.
I almost kind of don't want to mention it because I don't want to take a thing off the subject, but I've been thinking about it since I've been sitting here. There's a real big debate now about a law that has a name, like all laws do. I forget what it is, but it's based on reconsidering life terms for prisoners who have life terms.
Right.
And it's based on what they have become.
Right.
And they're showing that so many prisoners. There's a statistic about the ones that they have let out on this new program. They haven't reoffended not one iota. They haven't missed their probation calls. They haven't missed anything. And they're reconsidering broadening this.
Right.
But on the other end, they have the people who have lost loved ones to these people.
Right.
Who have been murdered and killed and all of that. And their whole thing is they should never let them out. They should have executed them, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
You know, and so I'm thinking about this
Right.
in context to what we're talking about.
Right. So that's a very broad and deep discussion about ethics. Right. And so the cynical part of me says that the penal system in this country is one of the biggest sources of that income generation and wealth creation, and that takes precedence over the human being. So you're expressing a human approach to redemption and the belief that people possess this possibility. I mean, in Islam, we talk about Tawbah. There are conditions for Tawbah. So that's a whole different, because that has, even the legal discussion about it is discussed in the context of ethics, because it's messy. It's messy whether it's in tribal Arabia or in modern day America. That's a messy thing. Somebody kills somebody you love, or deeply injure somebody you love. Everybody gonna feel some kind of way, and most of it is not pretty, and it's just that's ugly. So if we seek refuge in Allah from that. I haven't experienced that, but the reality is that some people have, right? And so that's a whole different level of discussion, right? And so to contextualize back to what we've been talking about, everything that we're talking about has personal manifestations and implications that will differ to a large degree from the societal implications. Okay? Because in terms of social organization, the ethics of that are rooted in the honoring of rights, divine rights that Allah has conferred, given. And we'll touch on some of that when we talk about some of the interpersonal stuff and what the Prophet peace be upon him said in the hadith about that. Okay? But so this idea of harboring the hatred or malice is what we want to focus on. That we don't allow that to reside in the heart, because when it does, number one, it doesn't hurt the person until you hurt them. It hurts you. And because it's a darkness, and it's a nastiness, and it's a rottenness that can grow. It's like a dark spot, like the Prophet peace be upon him said, that can just grow and grow and grow until it's removed. The removal of it is your personal spiritual space, which even Allah doesn't tell you. You have to do something about it. Allah tells you in the Quran, as we will come to see, that you should do something about it. And we'll pick that up from some of the verses that we have, right? But getting back to my original point, people that do that kind of work where we are engaging with people on the spiritual level. And so those of us that do this kind of work, and that's why I made the distinction between, and there are other schools of psychological thought, right? The most popular ones are, two of the most popular ones are Jung and Freud. They're not the only ones, but it's important to understand that Quranic psychology deals with the soul, the nafs, right? Which is a little different engagement, a lot different engagement than, the engagement of the human being as a thing, an object, matter, right? Because we are not just matter. We're not just a body. We're a body that houses a soul. And the soul, as Allah created, it governs the body. Right? And so there's this interrelationship between the soul and the body and the soul that a Quranic psychological perspective honors. And me personally, I see the connection, the closest connection, particularly as we talk about these potent emotions in the martial arts. Because in the martial arts, people are trained to harm people. And oftentimes, people that are novices, they believe that that is the point of the art. However, the masters that teach the arts in a balanced fashion, the balance of the art is how to help people or heal people without harming them. So harming them is the bottom. That's the easy part. With practice, and that's the discipline of yourself. Now, when you have reached a certain level, right, how do you not use that dangerous weapon now, or how can you use it to heal people? So the balance of many martial arts systems is, I know in the samurai system, there's a focus on art and culinary arts and poetry, and the idea was for the warrior to balance out.
As you speak about that, and you mentioned leadership and stuff like that, I think one of the things that, and maybe you can speak to this as well, one thing that you notice is, sometimes in the beginning you get asked a question and you give an answer. Mm-hmm. And then as time goes on, as years pass, you find that a lot of your answers become grayish, because now you're answering the person based on the person, right? So, before it's like, okay, well, this is what it is. This is what I came across, this is what it is. And then as years pass, it's not that you don't have an answer in the back of your head. It's just that you know that, okay, there are many more answers out here.
Right.
So it may come off as though you are giving fewer answers, but I think it's more that you really realize your place in the whole scheme of things. So it just goes back to what you're touching on there, that at one level is mastery of the techniques. Right? As you move up, it's then a mastery of the self and how you use those techniques to improve yourself, focus on yourself, and really see people where they are and stuff like that. So
yes, getting wiser, young brother.
It's been a couple of years.
Okay, so, and it's important. One thing that I wanted to mention. So everybody's familiar with the hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right?
No.
Okay, you can Google it, right? But it suggests that, so there's a
Inverted
pyramid, right?
Yeah.
Is it a pyramid? Right?
Yeah, it's a pyramid, but it's a regular pyramid.
It's not inverted. Right. It's not inverted, right? And so the bottom part, what's the first?
Security, physiological.
Physiological, right? Right. So some would read into that the most important need, which from a biological standpoint is true. Okay, but what I would suggest is, and not that I'm challenging that like that, but I would suggest that we add to the observation is that from the Islamic perspective, that big part is the spirit, soul. Because Allah said that when we're born, right, He creates us with fitrah. Fitrah is the natural inclination to want to please Allah. So what I'm saying is, with the biological, the physiological, like a little apostrophe, and the spirit, even with children, that we begin to nurture that early, right? Because that's their design. Their design is that. Their natural design, as we understand their natural design, is that their fitrah, they come into life with a healthy fitrah. And then the hadith says that the parents and the environment makes them something else. The hadith says, Christian, Jew, or Magian, some of my little Sabians, some of my little brothers and sisters, they run, and it's attacking the Christians and the Jews. No. Not literally that, it's the environmental factors that we value or don't. And so we have to give value to the spiritual environment. It's very important, very early. This is the purpose of teaching our children Quran, not just that they memorize the Quran, but that they begin to engage with the Quran so that it becomes a part of their foundation from young, guys, from young. So from young, you do that. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Adi.
I wanted to ask you, how did that begin? Some people say we were born Muslim, but our parents and environment make us otherwise. What's the other way of saying we was born on the fitrah?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the same thing. Because the fitrah means your inclination to obey Allah, submit to Allah. And your inclination to submit to Allah is Islam. Right? So it's the same, yes.
This is kind of strange, but I'll do this is a personal thing. I want to kind of might have benefit everybody. When I first was introduced to Islam, it was like that sort of thing. My oldest brother was a part of that. We all grew up Baptist, whatever, the whole Jesus thing, whatever. Well, I never knew anything other than that. But when I was a kid, I just like say, for instance, the Catholics, I knew that they would go to a priest and they would confess whatever. And even though nobody told me that was wrong, it just didn't make sense to me. When we sung songs about worshiping Jesus, and even though I sung them, but I never believed that I was supposed to worship Him. And same thing, I don't know what my oldest brother, but at some point he kind of backed off from religion altogether, Christianity and everything. And then when he got introduced to the Ansar thing, we became Muslims, supposedly. So that made me curious about being what it is that made him change, even though I realized now that it was complete Islam. So I embraced Islam, or what I thought was Islam, because I opened my eyes, ears to it, embraced it and everything. My mother said, well, why are you following him? You don't ever stick with anything, so I kind of like, yeah, whatever. But now he's not only don't embrace Islam anymore, he's like, I wrote a letter to him about something, in the way he addressed it was like, he didn't honor tribal Buddhism, I don't believe anything. And he went back to where he was before, as he concluded that he had a proper Christianity. And almost what the Quran says about, I believe when you die, let's go back to dust and go back to the universe, and that's it. Now, and I would like to understand, what could have possibly happened to sever him from the fitrah to that extent where he can't even reconnect back to it at all?
Right.
That's why I'm kind of
Yeah, well, that depends on that person. That really does depend on that person.
I mean, he went to the other extreme, it was probably worse than he was before.
That's not as uncommon as you may think.
Plus, somebody told me there's really no such thing as an atheist. It's just, they know there's a creator, but they just they're lazy about having to do what they're supposed to do in order to implement what he's given us to follow.
So, yeah, this is from someone who's never been an atheist. But I believe that atheists sort of indulge in this a sick form of self narcissism and importance. There's an arrogance about the human mind, you know, understanding. There's an arrogance there. You know, that really isn't real. Like it's not really based in any type of reality because, you know, a very cursory practice of thinking about your life will reveal to you that you really don't control nothing. Like you don't control anything, and either you accept that or you don't. Right. So oftentimes atheists talk like they don't accept that because they're not afraid to question God and challenge God, and you know. But you know, you respect where people are, and a part of that is a very personal thing.
So I haven't written them off yet, but
What happened?
I haven't written them off.
Right.
But you know, that's on him.
Yeah, and I hope you don't, because you
Oh, I'm
know
not.
people are where they
Not
are,
too late, so.
and you know, I think that we can, as long as we hold out hope for people, there's hope for people, and it's more the prophetic way to hold out hope for people than to write them off, and because we don't want anybody writing us off.
So as long as we hold out hope for people, there's hope for us.
Right. Well, we want hope.
Right.
We want somebody not to write us off. Right. You know what I mean? So we should try to give to people what we want for ourselves. Okay, Sister Hamdia, please continue in the Quran of law states.
In the Quran, Allah states, and those who undeservedly insult believing men and women will bear the guilt of slander and flagrant sin.
Okay, now if you can, please make some time this week to read the sequence of verses. So this is from Surah Nur, the light, Surah 33. I'm sorry, no. This is the Confederates. Confederates. So yeah, the Confederates is 33.
Yes, sir.
But there's a sequence of verses because upon first volume, a person may assume that insult, like Muslims never insult people or never are insulted, and that's not the case. Undeservedly here is the word that we need to clarify. So undeservedly here means when we go on the attack and we engage consciously in slander and rumor spreading or gossip mongering, or that's what this. So it's an aggressive thing. It's not, the way it may seem, upon first reading. Okay, keep going in the hadith.
In the hadith, Prophet Muhammad states, whoever would like to be cast far away from hell and granted entrance into paradise should pray that his death does not come to him or does not meet death. Let death come to him and...
Oh, I'm sorry, there's a lot going on there. Because
unless he believes in Allah and the last day, and he gives to people what he wants for himself.
So this hadith sort of frames a perspective that ultimately, we don't want people hating us. We should hate people. It's okay to hate people's actions, and you should hate evil behavior. Okay, so going back to what you were saying, Brother Rashid, black people shouldn't love the evil actions that were committed against them. They shouldn't love that. It doesn't mean, that, we love people, that we also love their evil behavior. No, that distinction is clear. Okay. Yes.
Relating to what the brother said, like, I'm originally from Kentucky, so I went through those years.
That's right.
63.
That's right.
All the way up. And it seemed to have taken a break, but now it's reoccurring. It's like quadruple the force because of Southern.
Yeah, well, it hasn't taken a
global.
break. You mean the spirit of it?
Yeah, like,
You
just look at the political arena.
Right.
Sooner or later, it's going to affect us.
Yeah. So, right.
And it's
I'm glad you said that.
the evil that's contained in it.
Right. So that's just one of the things that we need to think about, right? The reality. The reality that we see, the reality that Allah reveals to us, right? So one of the things that the Muslim, when we talked about this from the very beginning, we're not naive. Believers are not naive people. Spiritually grounded and rooted people are not naive people. Naivete is dangerous.
Yep.
Right? So it's like you're going out onto a battlefield with no weapons. And you're talking about Allah protecting you.
Right.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to move over here
Watch, right?
and watch. All right? Because that's not the same thing for spiritual fortitude. You cannot engage in this warfare, this battle for your soul, unprepared. Because you won't win. You have to fortify your soul, right? And so the reality that Allah shows us, as opposed to what we want, what we fantasize, or what Allah reveals to us. The Quran reveals reality as it is. Right? And then we have to calibrate and adjust and clean the filter out so we can see. Right? In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said the believer is the one who other believers are safe from their tongue and hands. Again, this hadith suggests that we are not to show malice or hatred in that manner by being aggressively active or consciously active in the forwarding of something hateful or malicious towards another human being. Of course, this is contextual.
What does that word mean?
It depends on the context. So if someone injures you, you have a right to defend yourself. You have a right to seek retribution even. You have that right. I don't know if you remember, but we talked about the guiding principles of the legal foundation in Islam, foundational principles. One of the things that the Sharia is supposed to preserve is your life, your property, your person, and no other human being has the right to violate that. And when they violate it, you have the right to seek retribution. But there has to be equity. That's why I use the example tribally, and even today, because oftentimes human beings are still tribal, right? The human inclination is, you lick my finger, and I want to cut your hand off. Well, that's why the Sharia comes to, well, no. I understand the feeling, but you can't do that, right? Because everyone has rights that balance the situation. In another hadith, the Prophet states everything about the Muslim is forbidden. Is the Southerners out there?
Yeah, he makes me.
These what?
Generally, with something he sees the switch over.
Okay, so we'll wrap up. Everything about the Muslim is forbidden to another Muslim, his blood, his wealth, and his honor. This again speaks to the sacredness of the person, which is what we must take into consideration. This is why murder is haram. Right? This is why any type of violation against the person of a human being is haram, and the only time that is permissible, so for example, the only time it's permissible to take a person's life is, of course, in the context of self-defense, or the protection of property, self, family, okay, then it's permissible. It's still a sin in the sense that it goes against the balancing order of creation, but murder, right, is the gravest sin of killing, because it's murder with intention, right? So even in Islamic legal tradition, Those are the types of things that are considered. You know, the motive will be considered. Okay, we're going to read a little bit more and then we'll stop. So not to be envious of anyone?
The reality of jealousy is that it is one of the ugliest and deadliest sins. It is considered a grave spiritual defect in the character of the believer. It is often the result of a bad perception of another person or a bad opinion about the law. It is important that we respect the frailty of our own souls by seeking refuge in the law, not only the evil effect of jealousy directed towards us, but the lurking of evil jealousy in our hearts. Textual support. In the Quran, Allah states, "Say, O Prophet, I seek refuge with the Lord of daybreak against the harm of what he has created, the harm of the night when darkness gathers, the harm of witches when they blow on knots, the harm of the envier when he envies." In the Quran, Allah also states, "The believers are brothers, so make peace between your two brothers and sisters, and be mindful of the law so that you may be given mercy." 49:10. In another verse, Allah states, "Do they envy other people for the bounty that Allah has granted them?" One of the points that the verse clarifies is that some people were jealous of the Prophet ﷺ because Allah favored him with prophethood. In the Hadith, the Prophet ﷺ states, "Beware of jealousy, for verily jealousy eats away good deeds the way fire eats away wood."
Okay, so we're going to stop here. And just before we close the class, so the point of jealousy. So just to give you sort of a definition, spiritual definition. So the spiritual definition of jealousy is when you desire to have a blessing taken away from someone and given to you. Okay? And that's why it's worded evil jealousy. Because there's a form of jealousy that's permissible. And usually it's referred to as envy. Okay? And the Prophet actually, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, has said that envy is permissible in two instances. Right? So you can be envious of a person that has, first, religious knowledge that they use. Not just that they're walking around with religious knowledge, but that they use it, right? And you want to be like that. And the other form of permissible envy is if a person is blessed with means and they use it for good. Not just wanting the money, because Fulan got money. I want to be like Fulan because they got money. No, but that Fulan has money or Fulana, and then they use their money for good. And it's permissible for you to say, man, I wish I had that kind of money. I would do the same thing, right? And that is a different reality than seeing someone that has a blessing and saying, why he got that? Why she got that? Right? Why he got to be healthy? Because their mind is deep, right? And the heart is deeper, right? Because what we want to cover in the heart is these feelings of mutual goodness that we want. That's how you begin to want for someone else what you want for yourself. That you have to want good, period, generally, first, before you can want it for someone else. So it's actually a form of giving, like we talked about with love. It's one thing to take it, it's another thing to give it, right? So in closing, I like to keep stuff real. There ain't nobody floating out here today because we talked about love. Nobody floating, right? We're still on the ground walking, trying to figure this thing out. Jabber, taking one step at a time, recognizing that it's a work in progress. And it's okay to A, be vulnerable, and B, to be confused and even conflicted. Those are all good things, because it means that we're questioning. And the person that we must interrogate the hardest and the most is ourselves.
So, Kurt.
That was good. Is ourselves. That's the person that you're interrogating most. And inshallah, keep that spirit in mind. We will be on our way to a healthy spirit. Inshallah. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. So I'm going to ask you to read ahead. And inshallah, my intention is that next week we will hit the ground reading from point 26. So if you have questions, because 26 is talking about anger, that's in the 27, from point 27. So come prepared to talk about that.
Doing 26 and 27?
No, we're doing from 27 through 30. 27 through 30. So come prepared to talk more. No. That, we add that to,
Can I help you? Could I get some?
you know what?
I might have to.
That's mine.
You better go on.
That's mine.
Adib, I might have to, you know what? Text me an email so I can just email you. I'm
gonna do you. Why you don't have my email, brother? Oh, okay.
And they're vicious, man. The phone companies.